Hi there. I want to talk about goal setting today. And so, when someone first walks in through the door, I find that you kind of have this idea in terms of what you want to do, but ultimately, the majority of people really have no idea why it's important to them. And I think that's really one of the things that sort of really makes a good gym different than just any other gym. Asking the time and really taking the time to ask the question, what is important to you, but also why is it important? Okay? Why is it important to you? Because if you don't have a good reason why, ultimately you're not going to have a good outcome. And the thing around really asking why is ultimately what we're trying to do is do two things. We're trying to create, kind of understand what the purpose is, and try to figure out if we can align different parts of your life in order to support that, right? And so we start by talking about goal setting. Just doing this alone is a really big part of it because it always gets the person to really think about why they're doing what they're doing. And if you don't do this, and you skip over this, which really often happens, you start doing this thing, you're doing this new movement, this new exercise, this new routine. But once you kind of do it for a while, you almost forget why you're doing it because you don't take the time to ask yourself what's the purpose behind it and why it's important to you. And so if you don't do that, again, you're kind of lost, right? You're in this middle zone where you're doing this thing, you don't know why you're doing it. And so I'm going to give myself as an example because why I exercise or why I move is very different now than what it used to be. And I'll tell a lot of people this just because it's interesting how even though our lives change, it doesn't mean necessarily exercise falls out of that thing of things we want to do, but ultimately we want to make sure that we always have some kind of reason for doing the exercise, right? Depending on what we're doing in our regular life. So I used to be a much more competitive athlete. I competed at regionals for multiple years. And so when I used to do it then, it was really trying to figure out what my max potential was as a human being because I was interested in that. I really wanted to figure out where I could get to with my fitness and what my body was physically capable of doing. And now I exercise for a very different reason. So, as an example, when I set goals for myself right now, ultimately my goal is to try to have really good energy levels throughout the day. I want to make sure I feel good. I want to make sure I never have dips in energy level. I want to make sure I'm really productive in the day, and so I'm able to get a lot of work done. Another really important goal of mine is staying active so that I can keep up with my daughter. She's right here. Bam. And so, just trying to keep up with a 3-year-old. I don't know if you've ever heard of that study that they did where they took Olympic athletes and they put them with 3-year-olds and they tried to get them to run around with them and do the exact same actions. And then they were just exhausted by the end of the day. It just kind of gives you an idea of how much energy really sort of goes into having, just trying to keep up to children. And so that's sort of where I'm at in my life. And I want to make sure that I can lead by example and I'm in good shape in order to be able to in order to just sort of keep up with her because that's really all I can hope to do. She's so exhausting, it's insane. And so the purpose around why I'm doing what I'm doing, ultimately having good energy levels throughout the day. And my second thing is keeping up to my daughter, which is really important to me. And ultimately, I align different parts of my life to make sure I can do that. And so for me, it's not necessarily something that can work for everyone, but I generally work out 3 times a week. And I always do it first thing in the morning. And so for me, I have a really early start to my day. And I always do that at 5 a.m. And I know some of you might be like, you are insane. I can't believe you actually work out that early. I do, but ultimately because I have really busy days and I have a lot I want to get done. And so I know that if I leave it to later, I am much less likely to do it. And I know that's not necessarily the case for everyone, but it's just something that's really worked well for me. So the next time you want to do something or you want to start something new, just ask yourself why you're doing it. Because if you're not doing it for a good reason, if you don't have, a good goal behind it or what you want to get out of it, you're kind of starting off on the wrong foot where yes, you might fall in love with it, you might really enjoy it, but ultimately, you'll probably end up stopping for one reason or another. And that's what I tend to see, where people tend to go, they start something, stop something, start something, stop something, start something, and we just hate this idea where you kind of yo-yo in and out. I don't even want it on my board. I'm going to completely erase it. And so we kind of want this in terms of like what your activity level, your fitness level looks like over time. And ideally even, increasing a little bit depending on what you're doing and what your goals are, and if that's important for you. So just think about that the next time you set a goal or you try something new, because that's really the first thing you want to do. And if you don't have a really good reason for doing what you're doing, unfortunately, it's probably not going to turn out really great. All right, thanks.